Thanks having you guys. We'll have a panel about IoT. So we'll discuss a bit about the whole ecosystem in terms of investments, in terms of the end user's role, corporate investors, etc. So I will start first by giving the word to them to introduce themselves.
So, hi everyone, my name is Jeff. I'm the VP of Engineering of KIWI. It's a Internet of Things connected access control system, which sounds really boring, but let me describe it a little bit more fun. With our system, you walk up to your doors and they unlock automatically. You don't have to press any buttons, you don't have to pull out your app. It's just like magic.
And my name is Mitko Vasilev. I'm Chief Technology Officer and leading the Innovation Center here in Berlin by Cisco Systems. Our main job is to connect millions and hundreds of millions of devices in Internet of Things.
Cool. So my name is Diogo. I did 4 startups before. I worked for Rocket Internet, was managing director in Asia. Then I did 1 startup in the Caribbean, then another one in Portugal and Spain, and 1 here in Berlin. And now I joined the investor side, so I'm working with Portugal Ventures, which is the largest VC back home. We have offices also here in Berlin, in San Francisco and Boston, and we are sector agnostic. It's a big fund for 150 million, and now we are looking for expanding our portfolio in IoT and big data. So if there's any cool startups here looking for funding, happy to speak. So speaking a bit about the market, right? So everybody's speaking about IoT. There's like 10 billion connected devices. The market is expected to be around 10 trillion in 2020. But what about risks, Jeff? What do you think that are the major risks in IoT?
I mean, the risks of IoT are the same risks that you have with any connected device. The thing about this trend towards ubiquitous computing is that everything's a connected device. So you have to be concerned about your privacy, where your data is going. You have to be concerned against attackers taking control of devices. You have to be concerned about normal boring stuff, like how much power is all of this going to take, how many batteries are going to be built into walls. It's the whole perspective of computing risks are sort of concentrated in each one of these billions of devices that are going to be in our lives.
What about standards?
What about standards? I think there's a comic from XKCD, and it underlines this perfectly. It's first there are, say, 17 standards, and then, none of them really do what I want, so I'm going to make a new standard that makes them all work together, and now we have 18 standards. And I think that's really the status quo with the Internet of Things, and at all levels. So from the connectivity, the wireless sensor networks, you have LoRa and 6LoWPAN and 802.15.4 and Zigbee and. From the application layer, you have MQTT and,
Co-op.
MQTT and co-op are the 2 big ones, but then there's all sorts of custom things, and do you have a normal web server running, and is it private? Are all your devices connected to the internet? Standards.
Tough topic. Speaking about geographies, Mitkos, so it's still very, very US-based, right? Like, for example, just giving one case, wearables. 77% of all the funding in wearables is made in the US, but you have been working in the EMEA markets for a long time with Cisco.
Yes.
What can you share about starting more businesses, IoT-based businesses here in Europe? Do you think there's a business model scalability issue in Europe? What's your take on it?
No, there is no business model scalability challenge that I have seen in Europe. There is a challenge in understanding what business means. Because most of the startups, they want to be the best in providing some technical services. And in Internet of Things, it's only about sales. In most cases, when you see a couple of startups, let's say in the connected door walks, technology-wise, they're quite similar. And then it's only about the sales. And most of the startups in Europe are so much focused in being the best technical company that they're missing a bit the sales cycle, the scaling through channel, building the partnerships.
Okay, that's a bit transversal actually, for other kind of businesses actually.
Yes.
And about end users, so like sharing some statistics, like, and probably the case it's the fact. How many of you actually have this? I have this kind of obsession. When I leave home, I never remember if I lock the door properly, so I always go back to check it out. Okay, we have already one shy person here that has that. And there was a study that said that 31% of people that were interviewed in the US, 2,000 people, had the same problem, the same for lighting, the same for a lot of things. So what do you think that is needed to generalize these products of Internet of Things to the masses? And what are the next steps for doing so?
Yeah, I mean, this did I leave the oven on after you've driven an hour away from your house on vacation is sort of an age-old question. What I see right now is that we're just getting into the middle of the early adopter phase where the techie people, they buy the internet-connected thermostat and the internet-connected fridge, and they think it's really cool, and it's funding the next wave of stuff, the really mass market stuff, the stuff that everyone can use, from the children and the elderly. And the companies that are pushing this forward are companies like Cisco and Google and Amazon and Apple that are trying to make this sort of seamless experience. Because right now the setup experience is the hardest part of this smart home aspect, where you have to get all of your devices from a single vendor, and then you have to figure out how to put them all together. And what the big corporates are doing is they're trying to make it easy. They say, okay, you buy this thing, it has this logo, it's gonna work. How does it work? You take it out of the box, it's working. When this becomes the norm, that's when the mass market adoption comes. But the thing about the Internet of Things is that it's the Internet of everything. It's not just smart home, it's not just smart house, it's smart city and being able to monitor traffic patterns, being able to monitor large weather patterns more accurately so we can make better predictions about the weather. It's about every light bulb knowing how long it's been turned on, how much power is being used, and if there's even anybody there to appreciate the light bulb. It's such a huge sea change in technology. It's really hard to think about.
Picking up that point, actually, so the biggest drivers in IoT actually are corporate investors. So Cisco, Intel, etc. So Intel just launched $4 billion fund for Internet of Things. But that poses kind of a challenge in terms of such a big corporate, right? Because you have to adapt R&D, you have to do a lot of change management. Can you tell a bit of your experience in Cisco about it?
So we don't focus so much on our own R&D. Our focus is to build an ecosystem, and we are building it through acquisitions. We actually acquired just a company out of Germany 2 months ago through investments. We are just finalizing an investment here in Berlin with an Internet of Things startup, and through the normal partnerships with the big guys like Intel, Google, Amazon, and all the others. It is an ecosystem play, and because the Internet of Things market is going to be 19 trillion by some numbers. In 19 trillion, there is enough business for everyone. So we are focusing not to compete today, but rather to work jointly. And in a couple of years of now, you're going to see who are going to be the big players, who are going to take the bigger chunk of that new market. Because if you think that the internet is a big market, actually, internet was built on Cisco routers in the past. We had a lot of devices that actually have created the internet itself. And now it is such a small thing, just thinking about the Internet of Things and all the possibilities about the business, about the consumers, about the people. I mean, you can know much more about your internal body dynamics today, thanks to all that additional information.
Speaking about that and the trends, so if you would be a VC, what would be the area that you would invest in terms of Internet of Things?
In terms of Internet of Things, actually, this one I don't have to think so hard about. I think that an upcoming challenge for us all living on this planet is about sustainable farming and food ecology and how we have resources. And can you imagine, as a farmer, not knowing when you need to water your crops, when they need pesticide, when they need fertilizer? You just follow the farmer's almanac, and then, okay, so it's Wednesday, I have to water my crops now. Now imagine that instead of doing it like that, which is basically how it works today, your crops tell you, I'm sick, I need medicine, I need to be watered, or if you water me a little bit more
For Europe or in general?
For Europe.
Oh, for Europe, less happy hours, because that's the thing that a lot of startups don't get. When I go back to Berlin, because I'm constantly Berlin, San Francisco, I'm constantly commuting. When you go to Berlin, it's always, oh, let's go and have now a bike ride, or let's go and cook something, grill something. Hey, who has the time
Sense
for
of
this?
urgency. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Nobody has the sense that he needs to work 16 hours a day. Because it's a very, very, very short runway, and if you don't run 250 kilometers an hour, you cannot take off. And over here, I love the life. That's the reason my family lives in Berlin. It's quite calm and peaceful. But when you go and compare it to what's going on, let's say, outside in US, the guys there, they don't sleep. If you sleep 2.5 hours, somebody slept 2 hours. He's in front of you.
Yeah, so I can talk to that a little bit. So I don't know if this is exactly a solution to the problem, but there's a lot of venture capital in Europe that sees their competitive advantage, what they bring to the table other than their money, their secret sauce, as being pressure. It's like, hey, where's my return? Where's my return? Where's my return? Where's the product? Why is it not done yet? Why? Where? Now. Yeah? And if you're building a connected device, especially in one of these cases where it takes time to do a rollout, you can't scale from one device to 300,000 devices in a night. It has to be manufactured. You need to ship it places. You need to deal with reverse logistics and all that stuff. Everything is slower when you're dealing with physical products. And a lot of the VCs, their experience with digital products. And then, if you stay in your office 23 hours, sleep under your desk for 15 minutes, and then do another 22-hour shift, objectively, you can have done something. But if you have a design and you send it to the manufacturer and it's going to take a week, it doesn't matter if you sit in your office for that week or if you go get drinks, it's not going to get manufactured any faster. And that, I think there's some, that's one thing, but that's not really the killer thing. How do we make it better in Europe is really to increase the availability of, knowledge in the VC level, right? So Cisco's great because Cisco knows what they're talking about. But some family office that says, oh, I heard hardware is the hot stuff. I want to go invest myself in a hardware company. Let me ask around who's hot. And then puts money in and then starts giving advice. And the advice sometimes is good and sometimes is completely ridiculous. There's some amount of education that has to happen, about just as much as the founders need to know what they're doing, the investors need to know what the founders are doing or what they should be doing. And there's been, I would say, several investment cycles of software investment in Europe where you invest and then there's a big company and there's a great exit and then you invest more and it sort of ripples. And so at this point, the investors pretty much know what they're doing with software companies. But we're still kind of in the first phase of the hardware companies that are being invested in, which means a lot of these venture firms or angels, they put money into hardware companies. They didn't know what was happening. The hardware companies failed, and now they're afraid. They're like, and I did my 1 out of 10 in hardware, and it bombed. So why would I do that again? And there's this sort of tightening. Where they don't want to talk to companies that have anything to do with hardware, even if you're a completely platform player or a software layer player. But if you touch the Internet of Things, it's really hot and they're excited, but they're also really afraid because they don't really understand it that well.
That's an interesting point. What we do as a VC actually is for each type of company and type of sector, we have one independent board member that is specialized in that area. And that guy joins the board, so he joins the founders. And at the same time, we have a pool of experts that you can access depending on the area and the sector. And they can help you with the marketing for that specific area or with the finance for that specific area, etc. So that's one thing that some VCs are doing. But I agree. In general, I agree with your assumptions. Speaking about scalability, actually, so we were speaking yesterday about this. So you started in Berlin, then Hamburg. What are the major challenges for an IoT-based company to scale?
So apart from all the logistics and the dealing with physical products, there's different standards, different things that you have to comply with all over the world. So if I want to bring my product from Europe to the United States, then I have to deal with a completely different set of electromagnetic requirements, power, safety, all the rules are different. And then if I want to go to China, the rules are different again. And if I want to go to Japan or Korea or Africa, you know, there isn't a worldwide standard. This is how you make something speak wirelessly. And if you want something that conforms with everybody's standards at all the time, it costs a heck of a lot of money. So if I say, okay, I'm making a new device right now and it's just for Europe, then I can expect, you know, it talks wirelessly, it has a cool little display, maybe it measures the temperature. I can probably expect to spend a couple of weeks and maybe 10,000 euro in a testing lab testing it for Germany. Now if you say, okay, we're going to sell it at the same time in North America and Japan and China. So now that 10,000 euro is going to be like 50,000 euro, and it's not going to be 2 weeks, it's going to be 8 weeks. And so with that kind of barrier, I mean 50,000 euro for a test, you have to be really careful about what markets you enter and when. The other thing that is difficult for scaling an IoT company versus a software company is that's just like the technical problems. But what about the legal issues, just even within the EU? Or say you're building like what we're building, as you said, intelligence for doors. The doors in Germany are not the same as the doors in Austria, are not the same as the doors in Spain, are not the same as the doors in the UK. They're all slightly different with slightly different standards, and you have to, the more places you install your product, the more things you have to support, the bigger your support area is. Yeah? And the bigger your support area, the more expensive it is, and the more things you have to test, and that gets more expensive. And not to complain about expanding to different places, because absolutely we're expanding to more European countries. It's not something that you can just pay a translator 1,000 euro and now your service is available in half the world, you know.
Mitko, about crowdfunding, do you think it's a good, valid starting point for afterwards to go to Cisco, for example, and ask for a proper seed round?
Maybe Cisco is not the right next step for crowdfunded hardware. That's not a play field for us. But definitely I see a lot of enterprise companies looking into someone who wants to bridge the gap in between the enthusiasm and going to the large scale. And that's their play field. That's where they can jump in and they can get a crowdfunded and sort of an unstable product and make it an enterprise level. So I see now a whole new niche of players opening in that space. I have several contacts and they have acquired entire hardware design studios with hundreds of developers, especially from ex-mobile companies. And that's their job. They're taking all these insecure ideas which are kind of getting the traction, and then they know how to make them to scale up to millions and do all the certifications. So it's a new niche ramping up now because hardware is getting hot. Hardware is the new software in some phase.
Hardware is eating the world.
Yes. Also, more and more companies are getting our special sauce. So Cisco is alive. I mean, we were born in 1984, and we had a very interesting PowerPoint slide where we have seen all our competitors during all the decades. And you see, all of them are gone. Huh? Like, what's going on? I mean, how is this even possible? And then our special sauce was quite easy to understand. Own software on top of own hardware. And then other companies later on, like Apple and all the others, they started doing exactly the same. Own software on top of own hardware. Then business ramps up quite nicely. So if you can master the combination, you're the king of the currywurst, as we know in Berlin.
True. How many IoT startups are here? People working in IoT? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. So I would leave up the last 3 minutes we have for you to tell what do you do and what are the major challenges that you face. So, yeah, go to Mike. So there was one guy there. Again, yeah.
Raise your hand. Thank you. Couldn't have sat in a more convenient place, could you? Hi, it's Alphonse Gerritsen from Quantos. So we're building an infrastructure for Internet of Things payments. So like your machine can pay for itself or your car can pay for its own parking tickets. And we're trying to get banks connected in the process because everyone has a bank account in the banked world at least. So it would be easy for us to build a hub between digital cash, micropayments, and current banking system. So that's where we built the infrastructure system for.
Okay. Next one.
Yep.
What was it? Someone else doing an IoT startup? No? There was at least 3 fingers in the air, guys. Come
Everyone's
on.
become very shy. We could do questions.
Yeah, we can do
instead.
questions, exactly. Like,
Does anybody
any question?
have questions? Anyone at all?
No?
Okay. Oh.
1 question there.
So, what is your big picture of the Internet of Things, despite making money?
Mitkos. Pass the ball.
So,
I can speak after.
what's our big picture? Internet of Things is going to happen with or without us. If it happens without us, we will be probably not existent as a company. Even that we have 65 billion in the bank at this moment, if we miss that opportunity, the chances that we're going to survive into the shape and form and 75,000 people working are pretty small. So for us, it's not a chance, it's a mandate. We have started working in Internet of Things 8 years ago. Just think about it. 8 years ago, we started investing and we have started getting the right people and the right traction to be on the place where we are today. So for us, that's the business. That's our next business, and that's the business that we do today.
For us, it's... somebody asked me before, actually, what was the most interesting topic right now in tech. And I said Internet of Things, simply because of one reason, okay? Because it's what's going to impact more in people's lives. And that's it, right? So you have connected home, you have connected car, you have drones, you have... This is huge technology, and this can really help to people's lives in many sense, right? So that's why we are doing it, because it's the future. That's it. And actually, the time is over. So thank you very much.
Thank you, gents.
Thank you.